Yes, thank you to our moderator for getting everything organized here. And this is Chris Baker with Kemp Technologies. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm a product marketing manager here at Kemp, and I've spent many years in high technology industry with a focus on operating systems, virtualization, and enterprise computing. And I'm joined today by Shyam of Trustwave's Spiderlabs. And today we'll be talking about the threats to security that Spiderlabs are actively monitoring, how Kemp and Trustwave are partnering together to integrate technology into Kemp products to really improve the way workloads can be protected, and drill down a little into how that happens in the Kemp product set, and then look at some of the other scenarios that we can secure with the Kemp product family. So after that, there will be a little Q&A session. But with that, I will hand over to our guest, Shyam, to introduce himself and tell you more about what Trustwave, Spiderlabs, and ModSecurity can do for you. Over to you, Shyam.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me talking?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Excellent. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining. As Chris mentioned, my name is Shyam Sanders, and I'm a security researcher at Trustwave Spiderlabs. As part of my role at Trustwave, I serve as the core developer and maintainer, or as one of the core developers and maintainer for the open source ModSecurity web application firewall. We're going to be taking a little bit of a closer look at this technology and how it works and how we can integrate it into Kemp solutions. So the agenda for today looks something like this. We're going to take a look into the top threats that we're facing in security application deployment, how Kemp and Trustwave's integration helps improve your application infrastructure, why integration of the ADC and the WAF simplify application security management, and securing applications across evolving network architecture. In general, Trustwave Spiderlabs features both a consulting branch and a research team, and is dedicated to increasing the security of our customers, products, and partners, such as Kemp. As security researchers, we are tasked with developing protections to protect against issues being exploited in the wild, protecting against upcoming vulnerabilities, and dreaming up security that hasn't even been considered yet, against attacks that have not been considered yet either. In order to do this, switch back there. In order to do this, we take in vulnerability data from across the real world, penetration testing, and our own analysis of security of applications, and the lessons learned in previous examples. And we leverage all of these in order to offer protections for a variety of platforms we support. Every year, we release what's called the GSR, or Global Security Report. This report is a freely available, in-depth intelligence report that features information from across a variety of different areas of expertise within Trustwave. With over 70% of all attacks reported now being carried out over the web and the web application layer, you can imagine that there's a large security focus on web applications. In fact, for each one of these reports, we collect tens of millions of web transactions, and we look at where they each impact. Our recent report, released a month ago, highlights an interesting trend. Contrary to what you might hear in the news these days, the majority of attacks we've observed are not targeted specific attacks containing 0 days, but rather vulnerabilities that have been released and patched, often many years ago. These vulnerabilities target applications that are widely deployed instead of very specific applications, such as WordPress, SharePoint, Joomla, to name a few. The most familiar example that we've seen from the past year is that with shell shock. These opportunistic attackers, conducting more popular attacks, are very much less specific than particular targeted attackers who are looking for things that you might be familiar with, like government secrets from the news, etc. The opportunistic attackers, on the other hand, try to commandeer victims' web applications for financial gain, typically. For instance, we often see these compromised hosts conducting denial of service activity, stealing user information by inserting credit card shims, or serving malware. ModSecurity can be used to protect against a wide variety of both targeted and opportunistic attackers. So what is ModSecurity? Is the basic overview that we're going to get into right now. Oh, looks like we're having a bit of issue there. Excellent. So ModSecurity is a web application firewall. That is, it's a piece of software deployed to establish an external security layer that increases the protection level by detecting and preventing attacks before they reach web applications. The current version of ModSecurity, version 2.9, that's freely available, is supported on many different platforms, including Apache, Nginx, IIS, and Kemp's own platform. In general, it accomplishes all these security tasks by offering a number of unique features. ModSecurity can and does monitor, block, and manipulate web server traffic using a custom language that allows the maintainers to quickly construct what we call rules by which traffic can be manipulated. Since its release in 2003, ModSecurity has established a large community base. As you saw on the last slide, that's over 1 million installs worldwide. Today, Trustwave offers a collection of rules along with the open source OWASP core rule set that allow users to establish a protected baseline. These rules are constructed by security researchers like myself and are offered to aid customers. To date, Trustwave supports 2 rule sets: the OWASP core rule set, which is freely available and provides generic protections, and the Spiderlabs research commercial rule set, which provides virtual patching against known threats, specific opportunistic threats typically, like the popular ones we've discussed. It also provides IP reputation, malware, and DOS detection, and a number of additional features that we've developed with the security-minded administrator at heart. To highlight some of the differences, we always recommend deploying the OWASP core rule set as it offers, as they serve different functions. But the Spiderlabs commercial rule set is known to require less exception and tuning and offer increased confidence in blocking with less false positives being detected. Kemp stands apart, though, from other companies as they've partnered with Trustwave in order to provide our commercial rule set and support. As a partner, we offer them access to both the commercial rules and all of the the commercial rules, as well as all of their customers who have access to the application firewall pack will get this access as well. Additionally, we provide training and support for them to keep current and become the implementation experts, hands down, in the use of ModSecurity across the web. Kemp isn't the only one who uses ModSecurity, however. We have multiple other partners. But with that in mind, Kemp is one of our core partners, and we work with them diligently in order to ensure that their usage of ModSecurity is in line with what we expect it to be. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thanks very much, Shyam. That was really interesting. Now I'll speak a little about how Kemp is part of the equation. So for anyone who's on the line who might not be familiar with Kemp, this is just a quick overview that talks to what we do, which is really all about making your applications available, delivering scalability and performance for your infrastructure, and providing security and optimization in delivering those applications. So we're very much focused on the workload. We actually support a huge variety of common workloads across the industry, from Microsoft and up in the enterprise space from the likes of SAP and Oracle. We're a little unusual, I guess, in that we provide ubiquity, which is, to us defined as the ability to run our product set on our appliances, also as virtual machines and also in the cloud. And from a standpoint of doing business with us, we make it very easy to deal with us, to purchase, deploy, license, and set up and use our systems. And that, of course, is backed by a very sound and comprehensive worldwide support capability. So just drilling down a little into that. When it comes to application delivery, there are, if you like, many steps in the path from the user who is trying to connect to a particular application set and those back-end servers, which might be physical or virtual or in the cloud these days. So at the front end, we provide some firewalling capability with intrusion protection and so on. We also provide a set of authentication capabilities that provide things like dual-factor authentication, and even in the sort of government space, working with things like the Common Access Card to provide a very secure environment for users to connect and authenticate themselves with a particular application. In the load balancing side of things, providing persistence for IP traffic is done in a variety of ways. There's a couple of examples there based on cookies or IP address or whatever. And one of the aspects of providing availability and reliability for the workloads that we're serving is to do health checking on either the servers or the application itself by pinging them or other techniques to make sure that they're alive and ready to have traffic directed to them. And that really is part of the core load balancing capabilities that Kemp has developed, which we're now actually growing into other new areas, even building out support for the new SDN infrastructures that are becoming quite popular these days, and looking at traffic patterns and so on across the SDN infrastructure and using that to further help us in improving our load balancing capabilities. So Shyam mentioned the application firewall pack. This is what we call the LoadMaster feature that integrates ModSecurity and provides access to the core rules and the commercial rules that Shyam described. And in addition to that, it's also possible for customers to develop their own custom rules, and indeed our support organization is more than happy to help in that particular area. And this is really all about preventing the layer 7 type attacks that Shyam referred to. In addition, inside the LoadMaster, we have a lot of technology that can do things like SSL decryption and re-encryption, so we can actually unpack encrypted traffic before it hits the firewall, so we can really get a good understanding of what's going on in the flow of network traffic. And the LoadMaster itself is also capable of caching web traffic and doing compression on the traffic flows, and that in turn takes a lot of load off the back-end servers. They don't have to keep serving up the same page. It can already be cached in the LoadMaster. We touched upon the authentication features already. They're, of course, fully integrated and supported in the LoadMaster platform. And to throw in a little jargon, we actually have some of the features that you might consider part of what is called a next-generation firewall, things like intrusion detection, for example. So I touched upon this earlier. We have a range of products which are all built from the same technology. And it can either be deployed in one of the appliances that we sell on a bare metal system, such as a Dell or HP server. We can run in all of the popular virtualization environments. And indeed, we have a lot of people who are actually evaluating LoadMaster in some of the free players like VirtualBox. It's a great way to download and get your hands on a LoadMaster for initial evaluation. And out in the cloud, we're supporting the primary vendors in that space and making sure that our technology applies there as well. So just looking at some of the things that customers are doing, there's a growing demand that we perceive for bigger and bigger installations, Microsoft environments that might be supporting tens or even hundreds of thousands of users. So from a scaling standpoint, we're ready to support deployments that range from departmental scale up to large corporations with throughputs to address those kind of workloads up in the tens of gigabytes per second range. Also, to provide some other capabilities for those large corporations who might have multiple data centers, we can actually load balance across multiple sites with global server load balancing. And for those who are deploying in the cloud, we also support various hybrid cloud models extending the capabilities of LoadMaster from on-premises out into resources in the cloud. And in the SDN space, as I mentioned earlier, we have a technology that we refer to as SDN Adaptive, which is actually looking at what is going on in the SDN controller, looking at the flows and detecting any congestion and so on, and routing traffic based on that information. So this is actually quite a unique capability in the industry, augmenting a load balancing capability with the SDN information. And looking out to the future, NFV is very much on our roadmap, delivering portions of Kemp technology perhaps as virtual network functions as we look ahead. So in summary, basically our relationship with Trustwave and Spiderlabs, the technology and expertise that they provide allows us to deliver a very comprehensive set of solutions in our application delivery controllers. They are very, very well integrated, easy to deploy, fully supported, and as I mentioned, cover a huge variety of workloads spanning Microsoft, Oracle, and SAP. So if I could move the slides ahead, I would pass back to Liz, who will open up the floor for a question and answer session.
Hi, everyone. So as you can see at the bottom, we have my Q&A. If you wouldn't mind putting in your questions. As for right now, we, I believe, have a list of questions just sort of put together. Chris, do you happen to have that list?
Yeah, I picked up a few questions already. I think the first one was about the integration aspects. You know, how does Kemp integrate the application firewall into LoadMaster? And the answer there is that we actually take the ModSecurity code and integrate that into our core network processing stack within the LoadMaster operating system. And that gives us the capability to, you know, as I mentioned, decrypt traffic and so on, and then inspect that with the ModSecurity tools. And we actually build and test all of this together to ensure the best quality and performance.
We have a question here that are templates available to specific applications like SharePoint and Exchange?
Absolutely, yes. We have a growing library of application templates. In fact, with the change for Link changing to Skype for Business, we've in the process of pushing out an updated template to address that. So we're very much keeping abreast of everything that's going across the set of applications that we're aware of.
How do I schedule automated rule updates?
So this is actually a very good question and touches upon the usability aspects of the LoadMaster itself. We provide a web user interface, the WUI as we call it, and this is a very intuitive way of managing actually all the features of the LoadMaster from, you know, setup to day-to-day operation. And included in that is the ability to manage all the application firewall features. And one of those capabilities is actually scheduling those daily downloads of rules at a time to suit your operation.
Next question. What are the tools available for reporting?
So within the LoadMaster, there are a variety of tools that will provide you know, debug and status information.
When will we see a better information display than log files?
So that's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer it here, but one of the things that we are looking at is partnering with other players in the industry who can process log files and actually build that into a larger, you know, enterprise-wide view of the network. So there is a lot of interest in, you know, making us a good citizen, as it were, with many of those kind of providers.
Do we know if anyone in the DoD maintains custom roles?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that question.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that in terms of ModSecurity. ModSecurity is an open source project, so it's used freely by lots of different parties. As to whether or not they have their own custom rule set, that's really up to them to maintain.
Next question. How can I evaluate LoadMaster and the application firewall?
Great question. So the LoadMaster itself actually comes with the application firewall, and you can make a free trial download from our Kemp Technologies website. If you take a look on the website, if you go to kemptechnologies.com/solutions/WAF, WAF that is, beyond that, we actually offer our appliances for a free supported evaluation period as well. So you could either do that, by downloading a virtual LoadMaster to deploy, as I mentioned earlier, in a virtual machine environment of your choice, or you could even take a hardware product from us.
So there's a clarification that we'd like to make. When reporting, so the questioner was asking, reporting of the WAF module, like the number of attacks per OWASP vulnerability. If not, is there an API to retrieve data?
So I'm sorry, I was looking at the LoadMaster itself. Perhaps Shyam can address that one.
Yeah, absolutely. ModSecurity itself provides the ability to, I'm just going to go back to the rule, provides the ability to see the amount of attacks that have been coming via logs. There's also support for consoles like those offered by Kemp. That being said, on a vulnerability by vulnerability basis, if we were just to say that a cross-site scripting attack has occurred, for instance, it is usually not as useful per se as saying precisely what the request was that caused the vulnerability. So addressing things as an entire entity is sometimes not as useful as looking at the raw data.
Is there a good source describing the rules, core as well as Trustwave?
Yes, absolutely. In addition to this presentation, which outlines some of the differences in the slides, there's also the modsecurity.org website, which identifies what the selling points of the Trustwave rule set are, as well as what the generic usefulness of the OWASP core rule set is. And so there's much more information to be found on that modsecurity.org website.
Is there any other questions anybody would like to ask? Now would be the time to type them out. If not, I'll give them another couple minutes. Shyam, Chris, is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for moderating for us, to thank Shyam for his great presentation, and to thank everyone for attending.
Oh, I have two more questions.
Questions, good.
Questions are good. How essential is it to an application with the ASIC chip for SSL offloading? We are looking at several of your hardware applications, but noticed only available for your high-end boxes.
So the question is about ASIC-based SSL acceleration. Now, interestingly, we recently launched a new range of products using some of the latest generation Intel CPUs. In fact, some of our systems have multiple CPUs, and we're actually now leveraging the power of the Intel CPU itself instead of providing an add-in ASIC, as we have done in the past and still do in some of the models, to provide a real high-end boost to SSL. But we're finding that the latest multi-core Intel chips are giving us very, very good performance for SSL.
All right, I think that is the end of our questions. I hope everyone took away something really good from this, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the next Kemp and Trustwave webinar. Thank you, everyone.